In a quiet, weathered house on the edge of a sleepy town, an old man sat by the window every day. Just as the sky began to soften with the colors of late afternoon, he would ease himself into a worn-out chair, its arms polished smooth by time and habit. It faced the street, but his eyes rarely followed the world outside. This chair, beside the wide old window, had become his place, a silent post from which he watched the slow turning of days. On his lap lay a notebook, leather-bound and faded. At the corners, inside, page after page filled with ink and memory, each line a letter, carefully written to someone who no longer answered, but who still lived in every corner of that house. Her name was never spoken aloud anymore, but in the hush between the ticking of the clock and the rustle of leaves beyond the glass, he whispered it with every stroke of his pen. For him, the writing was not a ritual of grief, but of devotion, a thread tying the past to the present, thought to presence, love to life. Outside, the world moved on, cars passing, children shouting, seasons shifting. But inside, near the window, time seemed to settle and rest beside him. And so he wrote, every day, at the same hour, in the same chair, waiting, not for a knock or a sign, but simply to remember how it felt when she was near. The letters were never mailed. Each one, folded with care, was placed gently into a small wooden box that sat beneath the window, its hinges creaking softly, as if remembering the hands that once crafted it. She had built the box years ago, painting it in soft blue, the color of the sky on the day they met. Now, it held not just paper and ink, but years of quiet conversation, a dialogue between the living and the remembered. The letters were not grand declarations. They were simple notes of life's passing, what he ate that day, a memory that returned with the smell of rain, a line of poetry he thought she would have loved. Sometimes he wrote of dreams, sometimes of regrets, but always he ended with the same words: I miss you. I'll write again tomorrow. The box grew heavy, but he never opened it to read what had come before. It wasn't about reliving what had been said. It was about the saying, the reaching. Writing gave him a reason to sit by the window, to mark the passing of the sun, to feel, if only for a moment, that she still lingered in the light that touched the glass to the world. He was just a quiet old man with a notebook, but in that chair, with each letter, he was still a husband, still loving, still waiting. The window became his calendar. Outside, time painted the world in changing colors. Leaves turned gold and drifted down like memories in the fall. Snow gathered softly on the porch rail in winter, muffling the world in silence. In spring, light spilled through the glass, and tiny green buds pushed their way into the sun. And summer brought children's laughter, bicycles in the street, and warm wind that rattled the window screen like an old tune half remembered. Through it all, the man stayed the same. Each season passed before him like an old film reel, familiar but always new. The world outside danced, aged, and changed, but inside, by that window, a stillness remained. The chair never moved, the notebook never closed, Neighbors would glance at the house as they passed. Some waved, some whispered, unsure what kept him so still. A few said he was waiting for someone. They weren't wrong, but he wasn't waiting for someone to arrive. He was waiting for the moment to feel her again in a breeze, in a ray of golden light, in the hush of snowfall. And maybe, just maybe, he did. Not in words, not in signs, but in the peace that settled into his bones when he wrote. The seasons came and went, but the window, the chair, and the letters, they stayed. Because love had nowhere else to go. One morning, the chair sat empty. The house was quiet, as it always was, but this quiet felt different. Final, the sun rose as it always did, casting long golden stripes across the floor, catching dust in midair like slow falling stars. On the table by the window, there lay a single letter, not folded, not sealed, just resting there, open as if it had been waiting to be read. In it, he wrote not of his day, or the weather, or memories. This letter was different. He wrote that he felt his time was drawing near, that the ache of missing had become something softer, lighter. That he believed, somehow, the words he had written all these years had finally made their way to her. And now, he wrote, I will carry them the rest of the way myself. The box beneath the window remained closed, but it no longer felt heavy. Outside, the world continued. Children still played. Birds still sang. And in the evening, the last light of the day fell gently on the empty chair. But the space didn't feel lonely. It felt full, not of absence, but of a love that had stretched across years, across silence, across the veil between what is seen and what is felt. A chair by the window, now still, held the quiet truth of a life well loved. And as night gently folded over the house, it became clear he had never really been waiting to be reunited. He had been loving all along.